Philip de la Vega, your host. I'm joined by Carlos Raldiris, my
Hello.
co-host. Fantastic to be here. Guys, we're going to talk to you a little bit about, Business Fusion, the podcast that is about where we're going to bring together interesting and talented individuals from diverse backgrounds. They're going to share their experiences. They're going to learn from some of their work and personal lives. And the type of our guests, what type of guests will we have, Carlos?
We're going to have executives. We're going to have some movers and shakers. We're going to have go-getters. We're going to have people who have really interesting lives and engaging stories to tell. And we're really excited about having our listeners benefit from some of those disruptive ideas, some of the innovations and strategies that those folks have tried out and learned from, or not learned from. And we're looking to see that those lessons really help improve the personal and professional journeys of our listeners and our viewers. That's what we're hoping for, anyway.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's appropriate for us to share a little bit about who we are. You know, who are these two guys? Some old two boomers, just trying to share some ideas.
Don't call me a boomer, man.
Not.
Boomer.
Not quite. Look, a little background on me. I spent my early years in New York City, specifically Manhattan, where I went to the public school system, went to college, grew up actually in Washington Heights. Some of you might have seen that movie. That's where I grew up, in the Heights, which was a very diverse place, different types of people and backgrounds, got along with everyone. It was one thing, it was interesting every day, especially in the long weekends. There's a lot of stories we can share down the road. I do come from an immigrant family. I came to the U.S. and, typical family, hard work, no free lunches, the long suffering aspect of your life. Look, the reality is growing up in New York City, there was two ways, right? You could either take the easy way out, or you could go to school and get an education and try to get something, going for yourself. Took that option, and I was given an opportunity to go to school. Ended up going to school, got a degree in accounting and finance. My first job was with Merrill Lynch back in the One World Trade Center. if I could just get that out.
Back when there was a One World Trade Center.
Yeah, it was. Look, a lot of mixed feelings on that. It's sad, but great experience. I actually ended up going to that great restaurant, Windows in the World. It was a fantastic experience. But did that at the beginning of my career. Then I moved to the East Coast, the West Coast, worked for Mattel for a while. Then I went overseas with a division that eventually became a spin-off of GM. Worked for Nokia in different parts of the world. Fortune 500. I've moved from being a CFO to being a general manager, sales and marketing leadership, looking over operations, managing hundreds of people, over billions of dollars in revenue. Had a very exciting and blessed career. Recently, I've been more in private equity, and I think that is a different challenge in itself. But because of all of this, it's been giving me the opportunity to have a lot of learnings, a lot of experiences, which is the reason why we are doing this podcast. We want to be able to share the experiences, some of the successes, challenges, not just ours, but we're going to be able to invite some of our friends, ex-colleagues, peers, and let them share some of their own perspectives and different aspects, anything from finance to marketing to just business, personal issues, perhaps that can help our audience, hopefully in their journey to success.
We're throwing it all in.
I'm sorry?
I said, we're throwing it all in. All of it's going to go in there.
Oh, it's a big melting pot. That's why it's called Business Fusion. We're just going to make it all in there. Look, we're going to give you the real deal, transparent, many times, all the time, unedited. It is what it is. But you will get the reality. What else are we going to get from this, Carlos? I mean, give us a little background on you.
Yeah, sure. Like Philip, he's got a wonderful little background there of the George Washington Bridge. For those of you out there who
Represent.
he would have grown up just on the east side of that bridge there. I'm a little bit north and east, mainly in the North Bronx, but really throughout all the boroughs. My family, who were also immigrants, kind of landed, if you will. They settled, either in Staten Island or in Manhattan, and then they all kind of colluded around the Bronx. Spent a bit of time in Long Island as well, Westchester County, that area. My background very similar to Philip's, right? And certainly our take on business. New York was one of those places where you had to work, right? It's not a cheap place to be, and if you come from working class background, you learn to work really, really early as you go to school. It builds a tremendous amount of kind of responsibility in you, and what I'll say capacity for hard work, and that really helped, I think, structure my character. I think another thing that's very, very true is that we had limited choices, or at least it seemed that way early on in our lives, right? If you're an inner city kid, you've got a group of people who are deciding that they're going to study for the next civil service exam, whether that's NYPD, FDNY, the postal service, et cetera, or you're going to become a crook, or you're going to go to school. And thankfully, I had a lot of people around me who kind of pointed me in that direction. And I had some blessings in that regard. And so, did that, went that route, was, completed, my bachelor's and master's degrees in New York, and then, went around, right? I spread out to different places to learn my craft, really in human resources. Have had the pleasure of working and living abroad on more than one occasion. And that, structured, kind of who I am as well. One of the things that I feel especially good about is that, I've been able to do all kinds of things that, if I were looking back 30 or 40 years ago, I would have never dreamed of. And that has certainly influenced the way that I think about business. It influences the way that I think about life. And it's one of the reasons why it is that I want to do this podcast, because, I consider myself a lifelong learner. I love getting a chance to talk to people, hear their ideas, hear their experiences, and seeing how we can apply those to the various problems that we deal with, either in our personal or our professional lives. And this podcast is going to give us the opportunity to do that. So when, Philip, brought up the idea, I jumped at it, and I'm excited about the possibility of doing that. Like Philip said, I also consider myself a pretty authentic person. What you see is what you get. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to even say that I'm even more authentic than Philip, because I have my real background back here, not the George Washington Bridge.
I'm just representing where I grew up, buddy.
Anyway, we're going to get that kind of banter back and forth. We love taking it out on each other, but at the same time having a lot of fun and a lot of respect for one another, for what we've done, what we know, and importantly, who we think we can bring to this podcast. So we're excited about some of those future guests. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what we're thinking about for the first few episodes here? Get them excited?
Yeah, look, the last couple of years almost has been really, really hard for the economy, especially middle market companies. So we want to kick off a series of middle market companies, right? Look at it from an angle of finance, HR, marketing, operations and stuff like that. What are some of the initiatives? What are some of the challenges, best practices? And we'll have different guests that will share with us all of those aspects. And hopefully that will give us a little flavor. There will be a series of middle market. We'll have other series. Maybe we'll do a series on leadership. We'll hear your feedback. Give us your feedback. Tell us what it is that you want to hear about. But those will be the podcast series. And then we will also, Carlos and I will have the opportunity to do quick takes, which is where you and I, Carlos, will have, 10, 15 minutes of maybe debating or agreeing or completely disagreeing on a point. And that's okay. That's what life is. And then, you know what? We'll ask you once again, our audience, to give us your feedback, your thoughts. Maybe we're completely off in some other perspective and just bring us down to the ground.
So
how's that?
So two for the price of one, right? So not only are we going to have podcasts, we're going to also have these quick takes. I'm excited about both of them. One of the things that I think is true about both Philip and I is we have an opinion just about everything.
Wow, this sounds like a sales pitch. And if you subscribe before the end of the month, we will throw in a towel. No.
Some of our opinions you're going to agree with, and some of them you're going to disagree with. Back to Philip's point, we want to hear from you. We're going to ask you to like if you like it. We're going to ask you to comment if you will, and we'd love for you to subscribe. It is really what will give us kind of the guidance on how it is that we set the agenda going forward around the topics and so on. But here we promise this: every person that we're going to bring to this podcast is going to be interesting. They're going to be exciting. They're going to have a great story to tell. And importantly, our listeners are going to be able to identify with them. We spent a lot of time thinking about who do we want to invite to this? And I think where we both kind of agreed was we want to bring people to this podcast who are like us, who have had these similar kinds of backgrounds and experience and stories, at the same time as bringing people who are real different than us, right? Because we want to showcase the benefits that really come from a real diversity of thought. So we're really excited about those two options. I think the quick takes in particular, anything goes in there. One day we may be talking about work-life balance. The next day we may be talking about, the greatest salsero that ever lived. We hope that you'll join us for both.
Absolutely, Carlos. I mean, folks, let me just be perfectly clear with this. We want to keep it, with a light spirit, with a good sense of humor. You can look us up on LinkedIn if you like. You can look at our background. We have solid experience on business management. And so we may keep it lighthearted, but it doesn't mean that we want to understand the depth of topics. Anything from mezzanine financing, organizational changes, succession planning, diversity, digital transformations, we'll cover it. So we look forward to meeting you and having you provide us your feedback. Carlos, last words.
We always end our shows the same way. We ask you to, go ahead, Philip.
Be good and do good.
Ciao.